All right, we're live. Welcome back to episode 2 of Blockchain Buzz. What's happening, guys? I'd like to introduce all of our guests today. Obviously, Maximus Crypto, my guy, my brother. We got Jesse from KIR Finance, the one and only, and the Crypto Otaku in the house. How's
What's
everybody doing
up?
tonight?
Doing great. I think I might need that wrench.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready to protect yourself or attack another?
So, emotions are running high in the crypto space lately. Jesse, I don't know how plugged in you've been. I know you're a busy guy, and when things are kind of doing what they're doing, you just kind of stick to other things, which most people should do, right? Distract themselves, touch some grass.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been very emotionally charged. A lot of people who've never been through. I put up a couple of polls over the last few days on socials, just asking people how many of them were in their first cycle. And I think it was about 87% across the board were people in their first crypto cycle, which explains the emotions running wilder than Hulkamania. So yeah. Anyway, let's we'll go around real quick for anybody who's new and have you guys quickly introduce yourselves and let us know kind of what your channel is all about. We'll start with Jesse. What's up, buddy?
What's happening? What's happening? Thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate the invite. Appreciate being back with this esteemed panel of experts that we got here tonight. Pretty excited about this. My channel, going back in time, is kind of started as a random finance channel. I did a video on crypto, and then I kind of fell down the rabbit hole a long time ago with it, and cranked out about 250, 300 videos. I've kind of had to take a bit of a break since then because I've gotten really busy on the personal side. But the channel is not dead. It's like Dracula. Like I say, it can come back to life at midnight. You never know. So anyway, thanks for having me here, and appreciate the invite, and looking forward to hearing everybody else.
Hey, absolutely, man. I love watching your videos when you're in high gear, brother. Definitely love your research, man. Max, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Rob. Hey, everybody. Glad to be back, obviously, with some of these gentlemen, especially seeing good old Jesse. It's been a while. And Crypto Otaku, actually. This is my second collaboration, so surprised to see Otaku. Glad to have you here, man. Really mean that. You always have great content, and you're very enthusiastic literally every time. Not 9 times out of 10. This gentleman's always 10 times out of 10, so... when I saw you here, I was like, hey, that's cool, man. Right on. Good to see Otaku. So if you're new, you don't know who I am, obviously, I'm Max of Maximus Crypto. It's actually Maximus Crypto 2690. There's some cheat codes to find my channel. You can just type in Maximus Crypto Jasmy, Maximus Crypto XRP, Maximus Crypto QNT. But I like to talk, obviously, a lot about utility. But I'm not necessarily just a utility guy or a utility snob, right? I'm foremost an investor. If anything has value to me and there's opportunity, I'm gonna hop on that. So I put it into the chat. I think maybe Rob shared it. There's my channel, and check me out. And if you already are, then welcome back.
Yes, just so everybody knows, I haven't had the chance yet, but I will be dropping the links to all 3 gentlemen's channels in the description, so make sure you go shoot them a sub. It will be well worth your time. Otaku, what's up, buddy? Always controversial. What's happening?
I guess so. I don't try to be. I'm actually a pretty humble guy, but politics, of course, drive us into crypto. Anyway, yes. So I'm Crypto Otaku. I originally started hosting a late night crypto talk show. And then eventually I lost my job in January of this year, and then I started doing crypto full time. We follow the markets in the morning. Of course, it's all real time news. So of course, take that with what you will. And it's total chaos every single day.
Very nice, brother. Very, very nice. So, what's the latest on Otaku? You were telling me that the other day you were doing a live stream and the emotions were a little out of control. right?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
that
it was kind of wild too because it was right after that. I think it was like that Tuesday pullback. And it was nothing compared to what we saw on the 10th, right? Remember, you guys remember that giant waterfall on the 10th? That tweet on the I think it was Friday, 3 p.m. And we had a similar like event, but very, very minute. I think it was like minuscule compared to the previous pullback, and everyone thought it was all over. It was all done. I'm just like losing my mind. Like I actually trolled my chat and created an entire live stream the following day that was just kind of like playing off that emotion. Like you guys are just too emotional. But I was really surprised because the previous pullback when we had that giant jump from what was it, the 120s? I think it was trying to go back up to 126 at the time. It was like 120, 123. And I fell all the way back down to, I don't know, the extremes of 102 or whatever with Binance. Yeah, it's been an emotional ride. And people just have to check their emotions at the door, man. This is crypto, man. If you live through the last cycle or two, you know that this is going to play games with your emotions. And you gotta tone them out, man. You gotta have a plan and stick to that plan.
Yeah, reflecting back to the 2021 cycle, I remember in May of 2021, I don't know, jump in if any of you guys remember this, but we had that correction in Bitcoin, and it took about 2.5, 3 weeks, I think, for the correction to take place. But Bitcoin had dropped 44%, right? And what I would say to the people who are experiencing the cycle this time around, and when you see like an 8% correction on Bitcoin and you freak out because you call it a flash crash or something, imagine what a 44% correction in a month would feel like, right? And yet we still ended up recovering. We still ended up having a double top cycle, having a blow off top, an altcoin season, and everything in between, right? So whenever you see that minor correction, and I kind of segueing into what I was talking about in my live stream this morning, that I do think I'm tracking the 50-day moving average on the weekly time frame for Bitcoin. I do think we're going to be coming down to that probably in the next 2 weeks, if not next week, the week after. The further we go out, whether it's next week or the week after, the higher obviously the moving average is going to be on the weekly time frame, right? So right now it's like at 102,400. So I would think that after tomorrow's close, we'll probably see it move up somewhere close to 104,000, and which wouldn't be as bad of a correction. They'd be like 3.5% from where the price is right now to 104. So it wouldn't be all that dramatic, but I know that every time we bounce off the 50-day moving average on the weekly time frame, we usually have a monster run immediately after that, so far anyway. And when we drop below it and we start closing weekly candles below it, that's when we have confirmed we are going into a bear market. So that's just one of the metrics that I use. So as long as you stay above that, in my own personal opinion, we're fine. So
yeah, I just want to add on to that too. I was telling everyone on Friday that the order books right now actually started appearing a lot lower, a lot of buying potential at like 87K. Which is kind of extreme because we've never seen anything like that build up in a while, right? I mean, there's still a lot more buying potential above that 87K, but I was kind of wild. I'm like, oh, some whale games might be coming. Pushing into that narrative.
Yeah. So Jesse, how much attention have you been able to apply to the crypto space lately? You've been busy, or?
Yeah, I've been following it. Kind of where I'm at. The latest was Dip sent me a message the other day on Cadena shutting down. I thought that was interesting. Obviously, when I was following Cadena before, it was like over $20, and it's just dropped like a rock. And it's kind of interesting because, I don't know if they're shutting down because they're just over leveraged, like all their eggs were in one basket and they just didn't spread out their risk. It kind of feels that way. I could be wrong. Kind of feels that way though, because at one point in time, that chain as a proof of work chain was supposed to be a really good one, really high throughput, but I guess it never quite got any market share for whatever reason, which is surprising because they had an entire group of people that was sort of pushing it, So anyway, that's kind of I saw that, and obviously I follow the daily ins and outs. I saw the CZ pardon. That's interesting to say the least. That's
Well,
where I'm at.
let's stick with the Cadena thing for a moment, because Max and I had actually discussed what was going on there on Thursday before we did the Patreon live. And we didn't get really much of an opportunity to talk about it, but we wanted to. So I'm glad that you brought that up. My thoughts on it were that, I mean, I agree with you. In the last cycle, at one point, Cadena was running neck and neck with Solana in terms of performance. I don't know if it's because their logos were both purple and pink and orange at the same time, or whatever the case might have been, but I remember them running neck and neck in the last cycle. And when the cycle ended, I personally had a lot of confidence in the project moving forward, similar to the confidence I had in Solana for the next cycle. But then I think it was near the end of 2022, I want to say, or early 2023, half the team left the project, and I was like, usually that's my head for the exit when that happens, right? I'm like, you know what? If they're leaving, I'm leaving, right? I'm with them, whatever, right? So, whenever somebody asked me about Cadena on the channel after that, I had often said, well, the team left, so I left, and it's something I'm not interested in anymore. It's usually a red flag. There's reasons why people leave, right? And then it just never gained any traction back after that. The positive side I would put out there for people who are holding the coin in hopes of a recovery is that it's not dead, in my opinion. That they're gone. They left the project. The bonus of it being a decentralized network is that someone else can come along and start to build on the network and give the miners some incentive to want to keep mining the coin, right? So I do I think that's going to happen soon? Probably not. You're probably going to be holding it for a while, but I wouldn't be shocked in the 2028, 2029 cycle to see somebody come along and start building on Cadena, taking over the network. The network's still there, right? It's still running. So
yeah, it's kind of like a Kmart or Bennigan's at this point, right? Like there's one of them out there somewhere that somebody's still getting a turkey O'Toole sandwich somewhere at Bennigan's. We don't know where. But yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously when the team splits, it kind of falls apart. I remember, I can't think of the guy's name. I remember there was a guy that was kind of the main guy behind it. He was sort of the catalyst. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just too hard to deal with. Maybe he's kind of the technical genius, but not a leader. Sometimes you run into that. So maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Max, what were your thoughts? You had quite a bit to say about it when we were talking off camera on Thursday.
Well, I mean, if anything, we could hit like two birds with one stone with this, if you guys like. I did see the super. Yeah, so I did see the super chat in regard to, it says Alpha Team, any Swift coin deep dive, please. So, as we know, Swift coin, it's really hard to get anything brand new from them. But let's face it, let's share a little bit of briefly what they have, because it's somewhat on topic. So I'm gonna share this. This actually comes straight from Swift. And I want everybody to, talk about this for a brief moment. So they announced literally October 14th, so not that long ago, okay? Major development in traditional finance and crypto integration. JP Morgan Chase has officially announced that it will allow clients to trade cryptocurrencies, marking a significant step in bridging traditional banking with the digital asset market. And of course, Swift has, as in Swift blockchain, has this thing called Swift GPT, which is pretty cool. It's not just their main utility with bridgers, which is an awesome utility, but it's just back to the topic of, believe it or not, Cadena. Like how do we bring this all together? Well, if you guys have done research about Cadena, you already know that these are former JP Morgan guys. So now you have these guys who abandon pretty much all of them, right? There's just like the most pathetic apology letter I've ever seen. It's just like, well, yeah,
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks so much for investing in us. I'm sorry. I mean, that sucks. But can you imagine the timing here? So you get an announcement like this. I mean, if it was me, even if it was like a meme project, you could have totally capitalized on this as a catalyst in itself. You could have been like, yeah, our blockchain is former JP Morgan guys. I mean, people, even though that's not really like, oh, well, the utility. I mean, what would we bring to the Cadena ecosystem? Yeah, Rob and Rue, believe it or not, all three of us, we did talk about how, at least I did, 2021, last bull market, you had positive catalyst and speculation pretty much catapulted a lot of projects. Like, obviously, we talked about like quant and things like that. None of this stuff in regard to utility was ever really used at full mass adoption, even yet, right? Some people say we're bridging over to utility. So if it was me, again, like, they could have totally capitalized on this. And what do you see? You see Swift blockchain sharing it. So, I mean, it's a little bit of Swift. The other thing I want to share in regard to Swift, just real quick, is where I would want at some point for myself, Jesse, you, Rob, Otaku, because I know you cover Jasmine, you even have Swift recognizing everything. See, they don't just share their own stuff. They share what's going on everywhere. And they point out that Bank of Japan Deputy Governor Ryozo Himino says stablecoins could become a part of the global payment system, even partly replacing bank deposits. Non-bank financial institutions now hold half of global financial assets, highlighting the need for stronger regulation. I mean, yeah, they want to point out the whole thing with Switch GPT, which is fine. But again, another chance to capitalize even on these small catalysts. Well, who's giving you the example? Swift blockchain off of two key things here. So I just think it's a massive missed opportunity, especially when you go back to this with JP Morgan. And again, why would Cadena want to jump on that, especially with all the bad news? I mean, I get that too, but I just thought it was interesting about this whole thing with JP Morgan. And since you guys brought up Cadena.
Couple of quick things. First, quick shout out to Chris for the super chat. He says, here you go, boys. Thanks for the alpha, my guy, my dude. Thank you so much, man. Thoughts. Yeah. So, crypto and Bitcoin are a pet rock. Can we use your crypto as collateral? You can't make this stuff up, right? So, Otaku, I'm going to let you take this one and run with it, brother.
Oh man, I was hoping you would. God, my blood's boiling. Yes, of course, those Jamie Dimon's previous statements, Bitcoin's a pet rock. And here we are now offering Bitcoin as collateral and Ethereum, right? That was hit the headlines this week. And it's pretty insane. That came out and it blew everyone out. I think that alone is why we're still kind of rallying over the weekend. It'll be a little bit of a rally into a weekend. But yeah, it's pretty insane that JP Morgan came out and about face on that whole thing.
I think it's just the first domino to fall when it comes to this, even though it's not technically the first. But I mean, let's be honest, as much as we don't like Jamie Dimon, when he speaks, people listen, right? What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, they listen, but I agree with all the statements that, if you go back in time and you look at JP Morgan's position, I mean, it almost changes weekly on crypto. 1 week they're in, the next week they're out. 1 week they're in, the next week they're out. And, maybe the inner magician in me kind of sees the sleight of hand that's going on there. Like, I know they're pulling some shit in the background. That's definitely happening. No question. All of the biggest crypto exchanges all have their own quant firm that's, trading as a market maker, et cetera. So, for all we know, JP Morgan's been involved with this thing for a long time. They're just steadily kind of tiptoeing towards being involved in it publicly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As for Swift, now I've often been asked, why Swift for the most part underperformed in the last cycle, right? And I think that there are more than a handful of projects, but there are some narratives out there in crypto that I believe were ahead of their time, right? And when I talk about Swift, I talk about Bridgers, the fact that they've not been inside the U.S., not because technically they couldn't be here, but because they didn't want Gary Gensler shutting them down, right? Who knows if they could have financially withstood an attack from the SEC financially, right? That being said, the floodgates are now open for a lot of these exchanges, swaps, and bridges to come into the United States. So I would look for bridgers at some point in the near future, in my own personal opinion, to be available in the US. The fact that they also dove deeper into the decentralized finance narrative, releasing a lending protocol as well. Very, very bullish on that. Just to say a few things about Swift, I think that they've completely changed the game in this cycle as opposed to the last one in terms of what they're bringing to the table. And that's just kind of, briefly touching on it, but it reminds me of also projects like Proppy, right? Ahead of their time, underperformed in the last cycle because they were ahead of their time. No one was talking in 2019, 2018 about, the tokenization of mortgages and stuff like that. It was too soon. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I would agree with what you're saying in regards to that. I will go back to what you said originally about Swift blockchain will eventually have a thing going on with the United States. Some people say, well, you don't know that. Hey, the writing's on the wall. What's a great example? Oh, no big deal. The president of Swift blockchain, Ramble Lamp, just so happens to be part of the North American Blockchain Alliance, right? And that's headquartered in literally Washington, D.C. So it's like you're just going to have two positions, one with Swift blockchain and this role literally here in the United States where you are, let's face it, reaching across, again, I'm not trying to get political, right? Political lines, Democrats, Republicans, literally in the heart of Washington, D.C. You are connected to some people, to say the least. So when we talk about regulations and so on, you're going to not mention what you offer with your, literally, like your bridge. We talk about bridge currencies. Literally, their main product is called bridgers. And it's just like, I mean, Otaku, and especially both of you guys, right? You guys do an excellent job with your charts. Okay, let's talk about that. Go back to the chart. All-time highs, I should say, at least for this year, right? Maybe a market cap, all right? We'll have to look at that, but at least for this year. Both times, there was a temporary unbanning for China with BTC, with China, especially when it came to alts. This thing got sent. So what happens when this whole thing with the rift that we have with China, gets a little bit better, and we're not in such a mess, right? Where the tensions, like we can find common ground. Well, for one, again, it's just like turning on a faucet. The way I look at it, it's like a freaking dam going on. Like, I don't know if you guys ever been to the Hoover Dam, Southeast Nevada. I've been there a few times because you drive through there if you want to go up to Vegas from Phoenix, right? Any dam, really. I just look at, like, when it comes to specifically Swift blockchain and the Bridgers platform, I mean, this is a good analogy. It's just like there's this dam blocking everything. But then when they had a little hint, like, this BTC thing, let's unban it. Altcoins, let's unban it. Who had first movers advantage? Like, seriously, I challenge people looking at this. It was Swift. That's first movers advantage because you already had a user-friendly platform, especially for the Chinese, to hop on immediately. People talk about your, like Stellars, if you will, and some of these other ones. Obviously, I do. What would have basically not so much the onboarding, but the offboarding, if you will. Yeah, look at it as an offboarding platform. People who have held you. Okay, back to otaku for a second. All this emotion. Oh, I don't like what's going on with the market, and so I'm so emotional. What about the Chinese and some of these other countries that were literally mandated to hodl? They didn't really have a choice. Or if, let's say some people are like, they're not mandated to hodl. They just kind of kept it secret. Okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, the outcome is there's a lot of people who hold these alts. There's a lot of people that hold these, hold BTC. First mover advantage. That's the key takeaway when it comes to this. That has tremendous value because it's unleashing, liquidity. We talk about the ones that onboard liquidity. What about the ones that unleash liquidity? So is that a form of on-demand liquidity? In to a sense, but in a different direction. And last I checked, how many people live in China? 1.8 billion, something like that. So, I mean, that's untapped unleashing of liquidity like nobody's business. And we saw that temporarily earlier this year. That's the whole point.
You touched on something that I'm going to kind of expand on a little bit, but quick shout out to Cliff for the super chats. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. And Jake the Snake, otaku is my therapy. There you go.
I do my best.
But yeah, what I wanted to kind of expand on is when it comes to bridgers is something that I've emphasized many, many times in the past for Swift, and that's the user-friendly aspect of bridgers, right? Their swap. And I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of a lot of these exchanges and stuff being user-friendly. I mean, for crying out loud, Jesse, I'm sure you remember how difficult it was 2 cycles ago to be buying crypto to on and off ramp money and stuff like that, and to be able to have a swap like Bridgers cross chain who continuously adds more and more chains that you can cross swap on, Ethereum to BNB, vice versa, whatever the case might be, right? People need to understand that if you truly want to bring in the majority of retail investors, it has to be 1 or 2 clicks to buy and sell crypto. It has to be that easy for your grandparents and stuff like that, right? People who are not tech savvy need to be able to take their phone, go click, click, done. I just bought some Bitcoin, or I just swapped this, whatever. It's got to be that easy, or they're not going to come in. They're not interested. That's why these custodians of spot ETFs are so important as well for that same aspect. Your grandparents don't want to get a decent wallet and learn a seed phrase and custody their own crypto. They want the bank. They want to just go to the bank and say, buy me some Bitcoin, buy me some Solana, buy me whatever, and you hold it for me. It's got to be that easy, or it's not going to gain mass adoption. What are your thoughts, Jesse?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. The Coinbase comes to mind, right? Because Coinbase is the custodian of most of those ETFs. So the institutions aren't necessarily holding the keys, right? It's Coinbase holding them on an institutional level. But you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of the cross-chain swaps, I know personally, kind of being in this space, I used to always mess with the various chains and let me see if I can swap it to here, to there, to their DEX, to back again, and whatnot. And sometimes you almost swap yourself into a dead end on some of them, where all of a sudden you're like stuck, and you're like, wait a minute, like I can't move out of this one. What's going on here? So it's a very big deal to be able to have cross-chain swaps. I mean, that's the future, right? Yeah, I mean, if you think about it. If the crux of all crypto is peer-to-peer transactions, then cross-chain swaps are a big part of that. Peer-to-peer transactions, cross-chain. So it makes sense. Now, can you make it easy? Can you make it functional that anybody can do it? Some people get real nervous about sending money here or there. If they're not a little advantageous. So hopefully it does get better.
I'd like to add something to that real quick. So I want people to understand a little bit more about this whole concept of first mover advantage. So number one, like here in the United States, most parts of the world, everybody knows about Google. The Google the Google of China literally is referred to as Baidu. Show hands if you guys know about Baidu. Okay. So Baidu literally is the Google of China. Well, just think about this for a second. So for one, we talk about, especially with Jasmine, like, you're shout out to you, Jesse. I think you did this deep dive back in 2021. Your GAFAs, your Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on. Well, if you think about Google in itself, centralized data, data is the new oil. How about centralizing it even further? Literally, by title, Baidu, the Google of China. Like, you think they're collecting our data over here? My God, right? Over in Red China. I mean, that's a whole other story. But what's also interesting is when we talk about this concept of first mover advantage, well, people over in China, they're not just Googling, they're Baiduing. I don't even know the right pronunciation of how they would go about it, but it's literally called Baidu. All right. So for one, there's two common factors here when it comes to Swift blockchain. And I know we have other topics to get into, and we will. But I want to point out, I can't stress this enough. The people of China, when they do their searches, they see it in their own news, even though they're not supposed to hold the asset. So they go to a platform, Baidu, do a search and so on. Well, think about this. You get recommendations based off of, they target people with the data over there just as much as us. So then you start seeing what? Swift, SWFT, not traditional Swift. This has nothing to do with that. Okay. Not that messaging system that dates back to the 70s. But the key thing is understanding you're getting recommendations. All right. And it's showing literally up on your feed. Well, who's the first literally it shows as far as something that's outside of the normal realm of BTC? It shows Swift blockchain. And now you're blanketing, like, my God, anywhere from 500 million or more people who just happen to be seeing that. That has tremendous power. All right, another key thing I want to point out, common ground here, and that is Tim Draper, a Draper and Associates, Draper Venture Capital. Shout out to our brother Rue in space, Underdog Researcher, the Underdog Research Channel. So they both pointed out that basically Tim Draper had this whole thing of being an early investor into Baidu. Tim Draper and Draper and Associates, Draper Venture Capital, also has what? They're one of the biggest investors, if not the biggest one, into Swift blockchain. So it's like there's so much overlap here. Oh, by the way, just in case if none of this even matters to you, you're like, I don't know who this Tim Draper guy is. All I heard was that Rob refers to him as Mr. Brow. What's that all about? The guy looks like Bert from Bert and Ernie, right? Pump the brakes on that one. Because this gentleman was the first, yes, first, notice how the topic here is first, seed money for who? Elon Musk. That holds more weight than anything. So when then we see all this common ground and the strategic alliance, if you will, when it comes to NAFBA, right, North America Blockchain Association, Ramble Land is the president of both that and the Swift blockchain. I mean, I would start there. And then you'll come to your conclusion of, maybe that is why it ran. And so it will run again, but not until you get those big announcements. So, are you the guy who's going to be emotional and be like, oh, I'm going to jump into Swift when it's, I don't know, 25, 50 cents higher? It's not a good recipe. The great recipe is when people buy the fear. I know that basically, what's his name? Warren Buffett supposedly is anti-crypto, but indirectly speaking, he has ties to subsidiaries that are involved with crypto, as pointed out before, in Japan. So my point is, yes, you do buy that fear. I bought the fear. Even in my Patreon, I let some people know, yeah, I backed up the truck on some more of the Swift. Why? Because when you look at it, especially on your watch list, and you compare it to other digital assets, this one stands out the most. Don't get me wrong. I met my quant goals. It was a nice relief. A lot of people can say that. But I also looked at Swift and said, I haven't quite hit all my goals on that. And it was sitting at 0.006. What an opportunity. So roughly for $620 or $630, 100,000 tokens, you can't really, or coins, Swift coin, right? SWFTC is what we're talking about here. You can't do that really with quite, like so many projects out there. There's some, but again, that was a huge opportunity, and it still is right now. It still is. So can we get back to what we saw with that euphoria early this year? I think the answer is yes. Will it happen necessarily by the end of this year? People are asking that question. I'm not a fortune teller. But again, I'd rather be prepared with my position for these events that will inevitably happen. That's my take. That's what I'm sharing with you.
I agree. I think that the tokenomics on Swift are just far too good for it not to. I think it's going to be one of those sleeper pick projects that's going to surprise people because they didn't realize the tokenomics were so good. I mean, a 10 billion max supply, 100% in circulation. It's got like a $20 million market cap right now or something. Like it's at an insanely good deal. I mean, for me personally, the utility behind it, the people backing it, it's just too much
too much opportunity. You brought up the tokenomics. I mean, we talked about it before. Just in case some people are new, I'll stop harping about it. There's other topics. So again, let's not forget 1/10 the supply of XRP. Boom. 1/5 the supply of Stellar XLM because they have 50 billion coins. These are all very attractive things, and 100%. Yeah, I believe it is 100%. 100% in circulation. So, I mean, also, you're not fighting devs dumping on you and stuff like that. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it's got the narrative, decentralized finance, that they've launched a lending protocol as well, and the whole lending protocol aspect of it. If you'll notice, I talked about this on the Patreon a few times. If you start to notice, a lot of projects are starting to suddenly introduce lending protocols and stuff like that. All these decentralized, it's pretty much going to become standard to have one. It's like when you first got heated seats in your car, right? And now you can't really buy a car without a heated seat, right? Well, pretty much moving forward over the next couple of years, I think most decentralized finance projects are either going to have a lending protocol or they're going to kind of be a base model, right? So,
well, it's both an on-ramp and an off-ramp. I'm glad you brought up the whole thing of an on-ramp because with that platform, it does work both ways. They are strategically positioned, obviously, with Asia, especially with China. I mean, again, just look at, we're supposed to do proper censuses. Well, let's do a worldwide census. And, we talk about liquidity. That's a lot of liquidity being poured in and out of the overall conglomerate, the overall system. So for me, I just recognize that there's tremendous upside potential, tremendous value there with Swift blockchain, with the Swift coin. SWFTC is the ticker. If you guys are interested, it's on Coinbase, and believe it or not, you don't have to pay with ETH. You can do US dollars with that pairing. But there's other avenues you could use. You could do Trust Wallet. You can go the Binance route. You could pair it with BNB. There's a lot of pairings, and obviously, 400 plus different projects. I mean, we even mentioned like your quants, your XRPs, your Stellars, the Cosmos. Go to the Swift blockchain website. You will literally see 400 different projects, solid projects that have integration with this. It is a real sleeper.
Yeah, and just remember, guys, it's never financial advice. We're only here to educate and entertain you, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to us if you get it. Some people are like, oh, it matters to me. I'm going to lose sleep if somebody doesn't get this. Give me a break.
Candyman says the human body has 7 trillion nerves, and some people manage to get on every single one of them. otaku. I wanted to segue over to what's going on with Fetch AI and the Super Artificial Intelligence Alliance. Jesse, you and I had a couple of conversations about this when they first started this merger. What are your thoughts on what's going on with Ocean?
Too many cooks in the kitchen. That's my first thought, right? And I kind of thought that when they first joined up, that this is like a battle of the egos, right? And they were kind of combining to create a super band. It seems like there's a lot of finger pointing right now, and I'm sure the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle where what's his name? Humayun Sheikh, I think he's the guy with Fetch. He kind of comes across to me sort of like he's trying to be the leader of the circus, but I'm not really sure what his skills are. And he's like the sales guy in the thing, right? He has the claim to, I think, Google DeepMind. On the side of Ocean, McConaughey, Dr. McConaughey, I think, is the one that's basically the genius on that project. And then the guy Bruce Pond, I think he's kind of the business guy with it, right? And so what it looks like to me is that Ocean is sort of saying that since they combined, it's sort of hamstrung them a little bit funding wise, and it's sort of set them up maybe in not a good financial position. And allegedly they did not convert somewhere around like 30% of the supply from Ocean to Fetch. And now Fetch took that personally and then sort of pointed the finger back at them saying it's their own fault, and whatnot. And now it's just a big nasty thing. And apparently, I guess in their contract, because obviously there would have to be a contract here, and especially with the converting of assets, they're trying to work this thing out through arbitration. But the bottom line here is on the investor front, it's kind of a mess. Truthfully, it's a mess across the board. And I'm not sure what recovery looks like until there's a good headline that distracts from all of this. It's kind of like they're airing out all their dirty laundry in public, and it's not a good look for anybody involved in it, truthfully.
Yeah, it reminds me of what happened with Gala, where one dev starts filing a lawsuit against the other one, claiming that the other one stole a bunch of the tokens, and then they had to do a V2 of the token to make the stolen coins worth nothing. And it's just, but again, like you had said, when you're doing all of this on the public platform, I mean, for crying out loud, your token went from like $2.60 to like 22 cents or something like that. Like, you really hurt your investors. And my thoughts on this is that I don't think that the project is dead necessarily. I think, though, that they've flushed a lot of their potential momentum for this cycle down the toilet. I think what ends up happening is Ocean probably goes its own way. I see SingularityNet and Fetch continuing to work together, and maybe that'll be enough cooks in the kitchen, as you put it, and they can continue to succeed through the next cycle. But they had already lost so much momentum due to projects like Tau.
Yeah. The I can't think of his name. Ben, whatever his name is. That's the head of SingularityNet. He's kind of like the godfather in this whole project, right? Like he's like the final boss, and he's still there, right? So the fact that he's still there is still a really promising thing, and obviously being paired up with Fetch, I mean, there's still potential there. I just think, the way they've kind of made all of it public is just bad for business overall. And I agree with you. I think they've kind of squandered this cycle, right? I mean, this is the last thing you want, especially as an investor. And, like with most of us in crypto, I mean, you're always kind of, you're riding the roller coaster. You're waiting for that big payoff in the end. And now it's like, you got to be kidding me. The band's breaking up right before we're supposed to get the big payoff. It's like it's like the band's breaking up before they're playing Budokan or something. You know what I mean? Like, this is the big show, the final big extravaganza of the tour, and now the egos are coming into it. I don't know. I hate that side of it for the investor, because the investor had nothing to do with this, and it's just kind of like, I say this a lot, like in my personal life, and the business front is just sort of just shut up and do your job. Like just, we don't need the drama. No one cares. Just let's work on artificial intelligence. Right. And I think they could still do that. And if they did, that'd be great. But again, it's just the battle of the egos that it's just not working out.
Yeah. To climb back up to where they were in terms of price this cycle might be a bridge too far at this point. So for holders, they might have to just wait it out until the next cycle at this point. Because I can't see, if I was buying it over $2, $2.50, $2.60, whatever it was, and it's dropped down to like 22 cents. I don't see a point in selling it. I mean, people can do whatever they want, but I think that at that point, for me, I'd rather just put it aside in a self-custody wallet for the next 4 years, and hopefully it recovers rather than take that big of a hit overall.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is I think you're kind of looking at it from the eyes of somebody who's getting it on an exchange and wherever you're holding it, right? But yeah. Fetch has their own chain, so there's a lot of people that have it staked on chain to get their returns for staking it, and now they're just kind of screwed, right? Because of this situation, they're stuck and they're on chain with their money, and it's just it just sucks. Yeah, truthfully,
It's weird that both of these things happened. I think it was the same day, Cadena and Fetch. So a lot of investors got harmed within like a 48-hour period. But yeah, I've been covering the Fetch AI situation as it rolls out over the last 3 days, and it's been interesting. But usually, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So somebody's doing something that's not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
What do you think, Otaku? You've been too quiet over there, buddy. What are you thinking? What's going on?
I don't have too much to say about Fetch. I was actually a holder for a long time until January, so I've kind of got out of it, and since then I've been kind of avoiding AI projects, to be honest, just because of the statements that NVIDIA had at the beginning of the year. But yeah, you gotta hang on. I still like the project. I kind of follow the same sort of sentiment as you, though, with Gala, because I was part of that too. I held Gala back in 21, and I remember the merger. It was atrocious with that token.
Let's back it up for a moment here. A lot of people don't know what NVIDIA said.
Yeah.
Turned you away from AI.
Really? So the NVIDIA statements, I forget if they were February or March or something like that. NVIDIA came out that said they're not focusing on any crypto plays. They're solely focused on AI and chips development. That was I was like February, March, something like that. I could probably pull up an article or something and dive in deep, but I don't want to spend too much time dedicated to that. That is an older narrative,
Well, you know what that does open the door for? I don't know, like maybe a world's largest GPU cloud being built by some company out there. I don't know. Anybody think of any company doing anything like that?
Gee, I wonder where you're going with that one.
I don't know how much I talked to you about it, Jesse. I know I had talked to you about it a little bit, but yeah, I am actually going to, Hara invited me to Jasmy Labs. And as it turns out, what I'm going to be doing is, because he gave me full access, he told me I could pretty much go anywhere. I could film as much as I want. He's like, film whatever you want, wherever you want in the building. Interview whoever you want, including myself. He's pretty much given me carte blanche in the place for a full week. So I've decided to, instead of just doing an interview, I'm going to create a mini documentary series about the entire trip to Jasmy Labs and because I'll be there every day for about a week. And so, yeah, it's going to be very, very fascinating. So Dip's actually, you mentioned Dip Metaverse earlier. Shout out to Dip. Actually sent me a couple of questions to ask Hara. One of which was, how solvent Jaspi is in relation to what happened with Cadena. Because Cadena blamed market conditions for going under. Is something like that possible for Jasmine, or are they fine, right? So yeah, I've been kind of collecting questions from Dip and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for you to make that trip, Rob.
Yeah, that's going to be an amazing documentary. Let me just say that up front. That I'm excited about that one too. I'm interested to watch it later and see everything that you've kind of uncovered. To kind of tag onto that, I've been thinking about that lately as well, in terms of Jasmy and their different products, let's say, right? So not everything in Jasmy's always been kind of like one half black, one half white, right? Like one half is the device maker Sony guys, and the other half is the blockchain. So are they diversified enough that if the crypto market, cratered, would the project survive? On the surface, I would venture to say yes. I think they would be fine on that front, because they are fairly diversified. I think Cadena had all their eggs in one basket, or at least it kind of appears that way. With Jasmy, it's very different. With Jasmy, my bigger concern would be something like, I think it was Secure PC, right? So, like the premise of Secure PC was all about how you didn't need to have a call center anymore, and now everybody's working remote, and we all learned that we can work remote post-pandemic. Well, I don't know if it's still that way in Japan or not, but in the US it's 180 the other direction, where basically everybody has had to go back to the office all day long, 5 days a week, to 100% miserable.
No one's work clothes fit anymore. They got fat sitting at home for 3 years.
Yeah. So again, you kind of have to ask yourself, well, is the use case still the same? Have the market conditions changed, right? And I think to an extent they probably have. Now, that's not to say that Jasmy still doesn't have a ton of use with the PDL, in the various different offerings it could have. So maybe something like Secure PC ultimately doesn't go as far as they wanted it to, or maybe it's out there anyways, because like one thing in crypto that people don't realize is like the market's life. It's not a zero-sum game. There's never a winner and a loser. Like there's always competing products that are out there, and so could they still have that same product out there and still survive? Probably. And then, I know Hara's been talking about the Sagan Tosu stuff lately as well. So I think they're probably pretty well insulated because of how they're diversified. That being said, Hara is also the quote CFO, so he should know where the finances are, right?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: the team does come from, for the most part, the TradFi background as well, right? People like Ondo have seen skinny years in companies as well, I'm sure. We're not coming from a team who's unprepared for the ups and downs of that kind of the finance world, so to speak. So I would agree with you there. And I gotta say, like, the more I've actually communicated with Hara, because Hara has been responding to me himself, right? It started off like KJ and stuff like that, but Hara has taken it upon himself to go back and forth with me, and just little things like he had messaged me a few days ago just confirming when next month I'm coming down, because he's going to Dubai for Blockchain Week at the beginning of next month, and he's going to be doing a lot of speaking and stuff like that there. But the fact that he thought to message me to make sure it wasn't the beginning of next month that I was coming down, and because he wasn't going to be there. I have to assume that a man like him is extremely busy, right? I mean, we see how much he travels, all the places he goes, Vietnam, East Denver, Dubai. I mean, he's all over the place, right? And for him to think about confirming with me when I'm coming down, when I'm just a YouTuber kind of thing, right? Is that told me a lot about the strength of his character.
Yeah, I would say to that statement, he's either got a good admin or a good wife.
Yeah, good wife. Yeah. Amen to that. Very true. Very true.
I'm also really excited that you're going there, Rob, because it brings everything full circle. When I first got into YouTube, well, right before I got into YouTube, I was watching Max in the bear market. He used to cover these videos all the time about how Jasmine's a scam, right? Jasmine's a scam. They have no actual footprint. They don't have any. They don't go to any conventions. They have no like. I remember all those marketing materials. You had to go like.
Or is AI? Or is not real?
Yeah, he's not real.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Unbelievable.
And here it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sitting down with an AI.
Do we have a brief moment to get into?
AI.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I do think it's awesome. Obviously, going to Japan. You know the deal as far as myself joining. I wish I could have, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm sure this is going to be an awesome documentary series. I think we obviously all look very, very forward to that, and I like the professional approach about how you're going to go about that. I will state this, and it was kind of a funny thing to mention. I think Jesse knows where I'm going with this, but Jesse, do you remember the infamous orange door to nowhere in the pictures from Jasmine Labs? You ever seen that one?
No, it's not ringing a bell.
There's a door, right? It's like in the middle of a room. It's like seriously, it's like this white with orange door, and it's like it's like, why is that there? You know what I mean? So it'd be kind of interesting just for the heck of it, just to address that, Rob. But no big deal.
Yeah, find out where that door goes.
Yeah, it leads to the Matrix or something. I don't know, or
Yes.
Yeah. Right. As soon as you go through that door, then that telephone behind Crypto Otaku will take you right to his room, and then you can rip off his mask and make it a 101 NFT. And I'm kidding. Anyway, but hey, if we have a chance, there's a couple things I wanted to pick Jesse's mind about that I recently covered. I think we kind of somewhat touched about this maybe on our private collab Patreon with Rob, and that is some of the recent announcements. So do you remember the whole thing when Caro Tono was really pushing that agenda of data free flow with trust EFFT, Jesse?
Vaguely.
Well, either way, you're gonna hear about this. All right. I think we should show this for a brief bit. I'm looking at the clock. We're at the 58-minute mark. I do want to respect, maybe this is a topic for a different day, but how are we doing on all this as far as the time agenda, Rob?
Fire away, brother.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So basically, this is the first one I want to pull up. This is recent because it's been a while since we had a DFFT update. Some people say, well, that doesn't pertain to Jasmine. If you've done your research, it does. It absolutely does. So let's pull this up for a second. I covered this in a recent video, but even if you're not super into this, Jesse, I would love to pick your brain about this because this was shared October 13th. So again, not that long ago. I'll blow it up even bigger because I realize a lot of you guys are on your cell phones who watch the program. So for one, it says Japan's data flow framework and the contest for governance. If you want the citation and reference, it comes from IISS.org. Okay. So for one, they go into this whole, I guess you could say, deep dive, if you will, about the frameworks and regulations. And we know when it comes to Japan, they probably have the most strictest regulations out there. Hence, Jasmine, the Bitcoin is Japan. It's not literally Bitcoin, right? But it's just a title that they got because they were the first to become regulatory compliant. So Japan's DFFT initiative, again, data free flow with trust, aims to enhance the free flow of data across borders, but faces challenges in achieving widespread acceptance. For a lot of us that have researched Jasmy, we feel as though that when it does have this thing of widespread acceptance, then again, untapped liquidity through data. And that's where I'm really going with this. They mentioned the whole thing about the 2030 global agenda. So by 2030, global data volumes are forecast to reach about 500 zettabytes. Now, I'm almost certain on this that that's an insane amount of data. I believe that, we're talking trillions of gigabytes, trillions of terabytes, maybe, right? There's a converter you guys can do on Google. But basically, roughly 5 times the flow in 2022. Data governance worldwide remains splintered. Again, back to this whole thing of Beijing promoting state control model. We talked earlier about Swift blockchain, how they're literally an on-ramp and an off-ramp for some of these things. But anyway, this part mentions that the European Union alone, back in 2021, estimated to have a cost of restrictive policies, about $2 trillion, lost their gross domestic product (GDP) growth by 2030. Japan's Data Free Throw Trust Initiative is the country's wager that cross-border data flows can remain open without sacrificing sovereignty, but its conceptual and institutional foundations remain fragile. Now, again, I look at this like, again, who would be first mover advantage? Because we talked about that earlier with Swift blockchain. That was like, China and so on. This jump back to Japan. When we talk about this free flowing of data, there was another article, I don't have it right now, but it was even recent, addressing the problems with the X platform. Everybody's talking about, like, will X select Ripple with XRP or Stellar with XLM? Literally, it's X in their name. But one of the most untalked about things is the real underlying problem with just that. Japan, according to what I've searched, ranks, second, right behind the United States as far as the biggest user base on the X platform. Just in case you guys are new, formerly known as Twitter. So would Jasmy, with its initiatives and so on, be an all-in-one solution because you are protecting users' data and so on? So I understand we referenced what happened in the last pandemic, but what I would like to reference is a little bit of this and the whole topic of you have a solution that meets the data privacy problem that Elon Musk has with X, and it's a huge problem. Believe it or not, since we're talking about insolvency earlier, believe it or not, X is not compliant when it comes to data privacy for Japan. And oh, by the way, just in case you guys want the numbers on that, the X platform, you have roughly 70 million users, from Japan. United States, I think it's like 105, 110 million. So let's just say 100 million. So right there, that's a huge amount of people that you're not compliant with. And moving forward, especially when we talk about GDDP or not just MiCA, but some of these other compliance ones, right? You're not compliant. So if you're not compliant, why in the world would people want to still use your platform? All right, just a tad bit, and I do want to kick it over to you, Jesse. It cites some things here that Tokyo has incorporated a binding data free flow with trust provisions into trade agreements that happened back in 2019. The World Economic Forum cited this. And oh, by the way, the World Economic Forum, I know people don't like, I'm not a big fan of them either. I'm just citing reference. I always got to throw that out there. So, geez, you want to talk about people getting emotional. You mentioned the WEF. Oh, people just lose their, what about it? But 2019 digital trade agreement with the United States and 2020 comprehensive economic partnership agreement with the United Kingdom via data transfer. Again, think about it. EU and UK recognize that a partner state meets privacy standards. So again, you have this whole data free throw with trust thing, and it does align with multiple agreements. So my thing is, would Jasmy potentially, okay, because we don't know for sure, be in alignment with these standards? My answer is actually yes. I think they already are. And some people say, well, through what? In my deep dive video, I encourage you guys to watch it on my channel. I bring the receipts, because think about it. Did we forget about this? My God. Jasmy is ISO 27001 compliant. So they meet all these IoT criteria with the ISMS. That is a check mark on this. X is a huge problem. And again, this is not being talked about enough. And we can go more into this. But Jesse, I mean, just right off of this is a huge deal when it comes to data free flow with trust. And it's a huge opportunity for Jasmy moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. You know, the crux of Jasmy is the PDL, and it's anonymizing data in a shareable way that is then useful as a group, right? So that's exactly what it does. And going back in time, the people that were kind of at the top of this project were government connected, and they likely still are, whether it's the local, you know, prefectures or elsewhere. I think Ando was he was an ambassador or something like that to Taiwan at one point, right? So all of that's in play. You also have their prior business relationships, being that Sony was well connected to the U.S. Japan, I think, is well connected to the U.S. and well connected to the UK, to the EU, right? As well as you've got those connections through, I think it's SoftBank with the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and Aramco. So, you know, when you think about the future, kind of like how we were talking earlier about cross-chain, data needs to free flow as well. And data is extremely valuable. You know, obviously, Facebook has kind of shown you how valuable data is. If you can harness the power of the data, then can you drive up the value? You know, that was, you know, in the ethos of what Jasmy started at was driving up the value of data to like $500 a user. And at the time it was like 40, I want to say. So could you drive up that value by having borderless data sharing, and could this platform be available for that specific purpose? Absolutely. Why not? Right? I mean, what's really holding it back? Is there anything that's holding it back to not do that? No. But the caveat I would say here is that if they were going to be of use to the government in this format, then that would probably take a lot of planning. And the Japanese are very, very meticulous in terms of how they build, in terms of what they do as a group, the Keiretsu structure, multiple companies working together in one. Could you have like a Panasonic teamed up with them and doing data sharing? Sure. Absolutely, right? I mean, Panasonic is very big in Internet of Things. And everybody knows that, you know, Internet of Things is kind of the way of the future. I mean, everything's going to have a computer on it, whether it's your car, your fridge, anything, you know, your phone, obviously. So
Your toothbrush.
Yeah, your toothbrush, your toilet, right? Everything's going to have a computer built into it. So there's data absolutely everywhere, and that data is highly valuable. And could this solution then meet the needs of the government? You know, that's one of the things that we always kind of would sort of indirectly discover and rediscover at the beginning when we were just researching this thing over and over and going deeper down the rabbit hole, was kind of that whole intertwining with the government aspect and the government goals. And they really do fall in alignment with them. And they are very, like I said, very meticulous. I mean, Jasmy started a long time ago, a very long time ago. So could they be a part of this? Absolutely. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you're probably onto something that could be going on behind the scenes. You know, being that, you know, crypto is not burdened by the same rules of like the stock market in the US. They don't have to share any of that information. But what I would say is through all the years of researching it, a lot of the stuff that various researchers, like all of you guys have found, especially you, Max, with your deep dives, they do end up being true, right? Otaku, yeah, absolutely. All these little nuggets that you kind of pick out of the the universe here and throw at people. Yeah, there is some truth that's in that, and there could be a connection there, or at the very least, Rob, when you're over there in Japan, these are the kinds of things that it would be a very valid discussion to maybe just even take an hour and talk to Hara about government overlap and the government goals of Japan and stable coins and data, and just pick his brain on that,
Or if you can like cross interview, like maybe Toyota, or maybe they have a Toyota, client or a spokesperson you can speak with, representative, exactly.
I don't know if it works,
Panasonic
that way.
Yeah, at one point Honda was in the same building.
Really, eh? Yeah, it's definitely like all I need as much in terms of topics that I can pick the brains of everybody, Hara, and I believe I'll be speaking with AJ as well. Dip told me that Sato is kind of doesn't like intruders in the office, so to speak, to put it kind of softly, but yeah.
Bring a gift. Okay, I'm just saying,
yeah.
bring a gift.
Yeah, but I do need as many ideas and questions and topics as I've got a full week there, so it's going to be, I even have somebody coming with me who's going to be following me around for kind of like a box set of DVDs for us older guys, where you get the special features, right? It's going to be clips of the special features and stuff for the VIP community and stuff. Is guys just follow me around and what it's like behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool.
If you guys don't mind, there's another thing I want to add to this. So I actually just shared, this is very, very recent. It comes from Junction. So they had that thing, I should say very, very recent, but they kind of retweeted this a bit. Back in August, the Nexus Core Night, that was something that kind of, like, people just share this typically, like, hey, here's the posting, so on and so forth. When I got more deeper into it, I pulled up the whole thing about WebEx Asia, right? Like Asia's leading crypto conference. And this other thing about where they tag, for example, not just Hara, but BitPoint Japan, Bifrost, who's a partner, and obviously Minara. I wanted people to understand that, look what it says here, like on the bottom right of the picture, hosted by Jasmine, Junction, BitPoint, and SBI. Now, BitPoint and SBI both have common ground. For one, Genki Oda. I did mention the whole thing of that World Economic Forum white paper that highlighted, it was actually a DFFT white paper. That's where I was going with some of this, Jesse, if I wrote to mention that. So they have a white paper that I highlighted in my last deep dive about Jasmine, about data free flow with trust. So we know, right, that Genki Oda he's part of the WEF. He's part of BitPoint. He has, SBI. He's also part of, that sub-steering committee of the FSA, which is our version of the SEC. So, like, you're hitting like 3 or 4 key things when it comes to your plug to regulations. So when we talk about, like, like Rob, you're like, I don't know if I'd be able to speak to Ando-san because he's not really prone to wanting to deal with maybe, foreigners outside the United States. Actually, I would ask Hara, how's your relationship right now with Genki Oda? I've seen pictures, of course, with Genki Oda and obviously Sato-san, which is great, but how's that relationship? Because to me, if back in 2017 Genki Oda led that charge to blanket Japan with, BTC ATMs and so on, then, okay, where are we at now as far as, can you do integration with personal data lockers? Because that guy, if he was able to do it with, again, these ATMs, then why not a personal data locker? And then if that's also the case, saying, look, X platform, like we can already make it so you don't have a problem with harnessing the data. Obviously, Google's already doing that. You are the solution to protecting that data. It's not an issue of harnessing the data anymore. Protecting the data that's actually already been harnessed. So again, this is a huge player, and to see them still tagged, like I said, it's hosted by Jasmy, BitPoint, and literally right above it, SBI. Those are some of the questions that I would hope be asked if it's all right. I mean, I understand there's a whole thing of, showing respect and so on, and I get that. But anyway,
well, most topics I'll obviously clear with him, off camera. I'm not gonna side swipe him with some. Why are you such a jerk?
No, but I'm not saying. I mean, it's not like we're trying to connect something that's not indirectly tied with them. I mean, literally, they're going out of their way. This is literally from the thing that he's super bullish on, which is these layer 2 solution with Junction. So they're literally tagging them. I mean, look at it. It's all right here, and it's in the picture. So go ahead.
He did also tell me that he's really looking forward to talking a lot about Junction specifically as well, right? There's a lot there that he wants to kind of unpack. They're launching that Junction link now, where Hara had just put a video out, and I went to watch it, and funny enough, I found out that I can make a PDL now and stuff like that because Hara posted a video explaining things on Junction link. So I went to click it, and it says, "Oh, it brings me over to create a PDL to be able to watch his video over on their platform," right? So they're already releasing videos from Hara and stuff like that on Junction link right now,
which is awesome. Go ahead.
While we're on the topic of Japan and of course Jasmy, one of the biggest breakouts I remember in recent memory, I guess, was last year in 2024 when the venture capitalists were allowed to purchase crypto assets in Japan. We saw huge spikes in Jasmy, right? Do you expect a similar like event with their, I guess their easing into next year, 2026?
Are you asking me? Or just
I guess
generally?
everyone, and in general, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Jesse and I have kind of talked about this in the past a little bit too. And what we touched on though was more of, could we see a spot Jasmy ETF in Japan? Why not? They are the only legally regulated crypto there. I think that would be what would cause that next spike in what you're talking about in terms of institutional confidence in investing in the project. If they could buy it through a spot ETF, I think that would be a big deal. And Jesse had actually said to me when I talked about it, I was on the fence about it, but Jesse broke it down for me when we spoke about it, and he said, "Well, why not? Why wouldn't there be the possibility of it? They're the only legally regulated crypto, besides Bitcoin. If you consider Bitcoin legally regulated, Bitcoin doesn't technically have that stamp of approval. It's just kind of, yeah, it's fine." Right?
But before we get into that, arigato, Kandeman-san, $5 super chat. Let's address.
Boom. Good interviewers send their questions ahead of time. Exactly. Yeah. I did send him one round of questions already. So absolutely.
Yeah, Rob, I think you may have just touched on something you need to talk to him about, which is the investor relations side of Jasmy specific to an ETF. And some of these things, like something like that, I don't know if Hara is ever, at least I've never seen him publicly acknowledge that topic. So that may be something worth talking to him over, whether it's on the record or off the record or whatnot. You may be able to learn a little bit there. And something else I was going to say as well is that Hara historically is very humble. He's got a lot of humility, right? he probably shares more than he has to. However, sometimes he's not always aware of what his statements could do to the coin and the market if he really put them out there, right? And so I guess what I'm getting at is that sometimes when you ask him a question, you really got to pursue the follow-up questions, because he may sort of inadvertently tell you more and you go, oh, well, my gosh, why haven't you said that publicly? And it's just kind of, he's like, oh, like he doesn't even realize it half the time. That's like, this would be big news if you put this out there. People are always looking for something to hold on to, especially in this 24-hour cycle, that I think sometimes he maybe kind of misses that a little bit. He's not always aware of that. And so my point again, if you could really kind of pursue those follow-up questions, you might actually learn a lot more information than what he's saying publicly. And it may not necessarily be a secret either.
It's funny you say that, because I have noticed over the years watching his AMAs and stuff like that sometimes he just nonchalantly drops something.
Yes, like a major nugget, right? Like,
yeah. And I'm sitting there like,
yeah.
Am I the only one who just heard that?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because, I mean, Jesse, do you remember when he dropped us a little nugget about the JASM? He didn't have to. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jasmine goes to all-time highs in market cap, not all-time highs in coin, right? But so we I don't know if this is at the exact moment where it went up to almost $6 earlier this year, but it was a significant pump. It was either the second highest pump in recent years, or there was the highest one. It was one or the other. And all that news, Rob and I, we touched basis on this, I think, a little bit. Maybe it was with Rue. It doesn't matter. But we touched basis on this, like, of that nugget, and then JASM, and then we know that, Jazz, publicly speaking, people are like, well, why? Why would you, like, this has always been conspiracy, if you will, like, if you guys have any ties to it. And then just, again, out of nowhere, he posts that. And then the news shows, I think it was, whether it's TSMC or some other semiconductor company, I think at the time was Hong Kong, transferred to, I want to say, northern Japan. And at that same time, with that news, Jasmine got sent, like, really sent. And people are like, they're like, well, why? This doesn't make sense. Dang it, everybody. I'm going to pound this home. It doesn't matter if it's me, as in Max at Maximus Crypto, or Jesse, whoever. How many times have we given you guys examples of what's more important than a positive catalyst of a partnership is what's indirectly involved? Back to Jesse with what he was talking about with Panasonic. I'm more bullish on what would indirectly happen because it's the utility. In reality, none of us have seen hardly anything about this utility stuff, period. We're just scratching the surface. There's not a true utility run going on, especially right now. But at some point, it will happen. Are you strategically positioned for what will happen? Or you're still chasing down green candles by shifting and swapping because this looks shiny over here and that looks shiny over there? That is a great way to not accumulate the proper way. And to me, it's not a great long-term goal for, let's face it, creating that generational wealth. I look at Jasmine as they are very well connected when you look more deeper into it. IoT in itself, I mean, I can't think of anything better when it comes to utility being used over and over and over again. In some cases, it might even be better than some of the cross-border payments and so on. Don't get me wrong, that's huge in itself. But I mean, this new era that we're going into with all these devices and so on, again, the toothbrush analogy, the washing machine, everything, and to harness that area of the world specifically where you're literally geographically located. And then their ties now, obviously, in the United States. Did we forget? They literally have an office in Silicon Valley. They're strategically trying to position themselves for not just right now, but way into the future.
Yeah, quick, Danny here. Big thanks to Danny. He says Hara was gracious enough to spend a few minutes of his busy schedule to say hi to me and take a picture. He also talked a little bit about Jasmine's progress. Very nice. Very nice.
Yes, I can
Absolutely.
confirm that too. He sent me some of those pictures in private, and it's pretty awesome that he can do that.
Yeah, but to kind of further touch on what you were talking about, Max, is that I agree. And too many people in crypto don't, I don't know whether it's laziness, they don't have time to research projects that they're investing in. So a lot of times they just make the mistake of listening to YouTubers or whatever the case might be. And, this YouTuber said that Jasmine's a scam or whatever the case might be, or Jasmine's a great project without looking into it at all, right? You have to understand. I mean, I come from, in just in my lifetime, all right? I grew up with no cell phones, no like none of this streaming, none of this technology, smartphones, none of this stuff existed. No, internet didn't exist.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay?
You, me, and Jesse are right around the same age. I mean, Jesse's been keeping it real since '82. I've been keeping it real since '81. And like
Yeah.
that's just awesome.
This stuff didn't exist. And the point is that if you were to be able to go back in time in the DeLorean and tell me back in 1989, right? I was like 9 years old, but back in 1989, that hey man, we're gonna have these smartphones, we're gonna have the internet, we're gonna have like all this stuff that we have today that everyone takes for granted, right? I would have invested in all of this stuff, right?
I'm so glad you're bringing this up because this is, oh my gosh, people don't get this. Gosh dang it, we got to talk about this. I'm trying so hard. All right, people say like in Gamerland, shout out to you, Otaku, because I know you're a gamer yourself. This topic of try hard, that's not a new thing with Gen Z. The term try hard, shout out to Rue, right? Try hard has existed for probably about 20 years or more, right? It's come from the depths of gaming. Poning noobs became to wrecking noobs, and it's the same talk. But my God, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't talk much about like XRP and some of this other stuff. I look at like you're not just investing in a coin. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm just investing in this coin." My God, like a show of hands. If we polled 100 people, how many of that 100 people would even know what on-demand liquidity is? I don't know, maybe a couple. You are investing into an internet protocol, like an internet. Never before in history are you capturing the value of an internet. Like I don't know if people really understand that. Again, we can go back to think about this. We talk about Web3. People just throw that around so dismissive. Oh, we're into Web3. Do you even know what that really means? And I said it politely. Like right now, we're not in Web3 at all. We're like at 2.5, maybe 2.7. Okay, I'll stretch it out. 2.7, Web 2.7. Because real true Web3, that is the fourth industrial. My God, that's big in itself. I know you got super chat. Hey, Ramona.
Well, yeah, just to continue on that before you continue on there, Max, is that shout out to Ramona. She's Otaku's a gamer and a therapist. Hit the like and subscribe to everyone's channel.
Thanks, Ramona.
Is that I would have? Sorry, I'll let you continue in a second there. I just wanted to kind of push into what we grew up with versus where we're moving, right? And I'm referring to things like Woven City with Toyota and Jasmine, right? These things moving forward, to touch again on what Jesse was talking about, everything's going to have an internet connection at some point. And I threw the joke in there, your toothbrush, but it's true. At some point, your toothbrush is going to have it's going to be an IoT device. They're already electric, for crying out loud, right? Everything is going to be an IoT device, and Jasmine is at the forefront of this. We're moving into a future, not too distant future, with already smart cars, autonomous cars, smart cities, smart everything. Freaking trees are going to be watering themselves in the cities and stuff at some point. So the
The
point is
robots
that
are coming. The robots are coming.
you think that it's this far distant off future, but again, in my lifetime, we went from no smartphones, no cell phones, no internet, none of this stuff, to all of this stuff around you. So what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years, right? You have the opportunity right now to look into these projects, invest in these projects, and financially benefit from what is inevitably coming. There's no stopping it. Sorry, Max, continue on.
No, it's so good. I mean, you bring up great points. Again, I just want to point out, because there's at least this one person here. Yes, I'm looking right directly at you in the camera. You might have just stumbled across this channel. Please understand that when we talk about some of these technologies, you don't want to be on maxi, at least in my humble opinion, not financial advice, into one project. Interrupt me again. It's okay, because super chats do need to be recognized above all. Go ahead.
Shout out to Candyman. He said, it already happened. My toothbrush has an app.
It does. But my thing is, again, diversification. I mean, we talked about Jasmine. We talked about the use case. Here's another one. Go for it. You're muted.
Ramona doesn't want you to talk. Don't forget to subscribe to Max, Jesse, and Otaku. Yes, and if you're watching the playback, the links to their YouTube channels will be in the description.
Thank you for the super chats, you guys. You guys are awesome. And Ramona, you're terrific, very professional. So boom, shout out to you. I just again want to pound this home, the whole idea of capturing an internet. You know, let's face it, everybody. There's like maybe 2 or 3 narratives. There's one narrative that basically there's not enough money in the world to get to these insanely high market caps. Maximus, you're out of your mind. It's okay. I could take the heat. I'm not trying to convert everybody. I could care less if people get it or not. I'm just providing information. I'm not going to lose sleep at night. But again, challenge yourself for real. Go to ChatGPT. If you want to go traditionally, go to Google. Go to Grok. Go to Copilot. Go to any of these ones. Go to Swift GPT, the new one, right? And challenge yourself. Ask the AIs. Ask it specifically. If the entire internet, like if we capture the entire value of the internet, what would that be worth? You're not going to get a right answer. There's no way you could get an answer on that. But for the first time in history, we have protocols that are at least attempting to harness some of this. Now, some people say, Google already did. That's only one form. And where I'm going with this, please understand this and please pay attention to this. That era of Web 2, going from the late 90s to early 2000s, that was capturing what? The Internet of Information. By definition, go back to this as well. And I've done some deep dives on this. Some of it's controversial, so I'll kind of bite my tongue a little bit because I sure don't want anything to get, I don't want nothing bad to happen here. But
I'm already offended.
Investigate for yourself the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, because in the late 1960s, I believe it was 1968 and so on, they had this whole thing of what they call special drawing rights. Okay, and the technology did not exist for that SDR, special drawing rights, at that time. And they came to the conclusion at some point something would. Okay, this is why I feel as though that is the IMF. And some people are like, you're full of it. Okay, nowadays, if you look at an electronic special drawing rights, it literally to the T, even ask AI to the T, it matches what, for example, Ripple is doing with XRP. And more importantly, it's recognizing that, do you have the technology to technically do it now? Well, yes. Who is the one of one that's on the steering committee of Swift as we speak? Swift, not Swift blockchain, traditional Swift that dates back to, Society of Worldwide Intertelecommunication, whatever the heck they're called, right? Only one of one. It's Ripple. So for one, the ESDR with on-demand liquidity does match that. And it's to do what? Capture value. If you look at documentation, again, you brought up 1988, 89, give or take, Rob. Go back to David Shor's patents. Look them up right now as we speak. That was the first form of a patent for distributed ledger technology long before the concept of Bitcoin, long before all that. Holy cow. So for one, when we talk about building the internet of value, go to some of these people's profiles. Go to Brad Garlinghouse's profile on X. It went from building the internet of value to what? Enabling the internet of value. Monica Long, president of Ripple. Building the internet of value no longer says that. Enabling the internet of value. I'm telling you guys flat out, pardon my French, it's going to be a shit or get off the pot moment for some of this stuff. Because for one, some people feel as though the ISO 222 mandate is the biggest buy the rumor, sell the news event maybe ever. Let's say I'm completely wrong. Let's say many other people are completely wrong. I'd rather be wrong on it than not take that chance. Aren't we all trying to take a chance on all this stuff to begin with? So why not strategically position yourself now compared to waiting until later? And where I'm also going with this is a reference. Yes, XRP didn't go to astronomical figures with the United States ISO 222 mandate. But it did go to all-time highs literally 4 to 5 days after the June mandate, right? I think what date was that? June 14th, something like that. So right after that particular US mandate, Ripple with XRP hit 365. What about a worldwide mandate? And oh, by the way, challenge yourself to some of this stuff. I know we follow stuff on YouTube, all right? I'm giving you guys, Hara gave us some nuggets. I'm going to give you guys some nuggets. There is so many different YouTube channels that are institutional channels. Think about this. What's one that stands out? It is the IMF. And as we speak, over the last course of, my God, since last June, they have been coming up with constant updates of what they're doing with, quote, programmable money. Then you look at things like quant. What is quant? We make money programmable. And by definition, they are the foundation for building on blockchain. ISO TEC 307, that's a global standard for building on blockchain. They have another slogan. We are the standard for digital finance. Then you look at some of the speeches, whether it's Christine Lagarde from the ECB, European Central Bank. What is she literally referring to? Stands for building on blockchain, enabling value of the internet. Like all the terminology literally matches up. Tony McLaughlin from Citi. What has he always been referring to when it comes to these pilots? He says, we have these test cases from 2023 to 2025 for the regulated liability network. And it used to be called the regulated internet of value. What? Is that the nugget he just dropped for everybody? Yes, it is. And then you look at documentation, whether it's from the WEF and so on. Ripple's who? They were building the internet of value. Now they're enabling it. What would enable that? Well, again, what is Europe doing as we speak? Call to action. Go to Christine Lagarde's X page. Go to some of these YouTube channels, the institutional channels, not the raw channels. They had nothing to do with it. They're YouTube channels that hardly anybody watches except for the institutions. And you will see in keynote speeches, that they mention some of these things. And one last thing. Go to it. There's a transcribe area right below that description area. Go to that. Hit Control F on your darn keyboard, for crying out loud, and look for the keywords that I'm talking about. Type in the terms value. That way you don't have to sit through a 5-hour speech. I just gave you a cheat code for some of the research that I do. It all adds up. And again, for the first time in history, capturing the value. So Google captured the era of that information. We're beyond that. We're beyond the internet of information. We're now to this next era of capturing value. So again, back to the other narrative. Oh, there's not enough money in the world to do this stuff. You guys don't know tokenomics. You don't know this. You don't know that. Okay? On our Patreon, I don't have it right now, but when we did a collab last Thursday, hear me out. What did I provide in that screenshot? Shout out to Mike C., Elon Muff. It showed in the screenshot 2 weeks ago that on rwa.xyz, I believe that's the site, that you had, I think it was a figure of, it was either quadrillions or sextillions, which is an insane amount of money, an insane amount of value. For the first time ever, still so early, putting that on chain. And what did it show, Rob? It showed private equities. It showed the entire stock market. It showed everything, stable coins, you name it. So when people say you're early, you are so early, but best believe what protocols would be used to capture that value. And as we speak, that value, that's how we get to some of these crazy numbers. I know I spoke passionately about that, but that's just the way I look at it. People do not understand. It's not just investing into a coin or a token. You're investing into an internet, a protocol for the next freaking era. Like, I don't know if people get that, man.
Well, that's the thing, is that they don't get it, and you need to be passionate about it, because so many people are allowing their emotions to control their decisions when it comes to this space. I get asked all the time, like, Rob, are you sure that, this crypto thing is a good idea? Should I be investing in this specific projects, Jasmine, Zebek, whatever it is, right? And like you just said, step back and understand something right now. What is big money doing? First of all, what is smart money doing? Every single time that Trump comes out and says some shit that crashes the market, what's World Liberty Financial doing? Buying the hell out of Solana and Ethereum and all of these other coins, right? And you're sitting at your desktop looking at the daily or hourly price action going, I wonder if this is a good idea, right? Should I be buying this? And
Rob, you're 100% right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you are right on it.
I often ask this rhetorical question when people ask me this. I say, what, and it's a serious question, what is your other option besides living not even paycheck to paycheck in our current economy? What other asset class out there do you have the opportunity to research and invest in that has the potential to change your life generationally, right? Than what is happening right now in a true utility driven market as we move into it over the next couple cycles. What other option do you have? Why are you sitting there saying, is this a good idea? I don't know. Is putting money in your savings account and watching it depreciate at a rapid pace, faster than ever before in history, a better option for you?
I haven't had a savings account since 2020. I haven't had a savings account since 2021. That's how much I believe in that savings. It was costing me more money to have that due to inflation and so on. I still have a checking account. Yeah. A good year in stocks was what, 15%? 15%? Give me a break. Yeah. I'm thousands of percent up on a lot of this stuff.
So when you ask me, is this a good idea? Well, ask yourself, what are your look around, read the room, and you tell me, right? Because for me, there is no other option. That's the way I looked at it. When I was in my very first cycle, you guys know my story. Freaking hydro was getting cut off, cell phones were getting cut off, wasn't even living paycheck to paycheck. I said, you know what? I'm going to take a risk on this, and that's just me, and it changed my life forever, right? Because there was no other thing that was going to do it for me, right? Nothing. So I did my research, and I invested in projects I believed in at the time, Bitcoin, because there wasn't a whole lot of variety in altcoins, right? But so you have to ask yourself on a bigger picture, right? Even if the crypto market, like some people are saying, suddenly converts to the 4-year cycle being gone forever, and you're just investing in projects that are going to take much longer to appreciate over time, like Jasmine, like Zebek, XRP, Quant, whatever, right? You're still adding to your net worth over time, and it's going to inevitably, in my opinion, continue to grow. So what's the difference? It's just that it's not happening when people want it to happen. I think that's the biggest problem that we see. I want it to happen right now. I want crypto to go parabolic this month, or else it's a scam. Right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Otaku? You've been pretty quiet.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I was over here burning some money while you did that speech. It was glorious. I didn't want to stop you.
By the way, YouTube, Mr. YouTube algorithm says you're having a hissy fit about everything. That's not real money, right? That's just maybe anyway.
No. It's definitely not. No. Exactly.
Braveheart says I've invited Jetpack on the show, but he doesn't want to be doxxed, so he's doing some evil stuff behind the scenes, I think.
Right.
We love Jetpack. All right, guys. Any closing thoughts? I'll go around the room here, and we'll get some closing thoughts. We'll start with you, Jesse. What do you figure, my friend? Are you coming back to crypto YouTube, or are you on a extended hiatus?
I'm like a buried zombie. So I could come out of the ground at any moment. You just never know, right? Right when you walk by me, there might be a hand grabbing your ankle. There might not. It just depends on the day. So a couple random thoughts. I wrote down a couple notes while everybody was talking there. One thing, you talk about what other option do you have and how early we are, and along those same train of thought. I remember doing an analysis on Bitcoin. This was years ago, versus where we were in comparison to like the stock market. And it would be like investing in the stock market 200 years ago. So when you think it's over, that's where you're at, right? The market's got a long way to go, right? One of the big things tacking onto that was that's sort of been waiting in the wings is the retirement accounts in America and getting access to crypto, right? Which now they're supposedly telling the various retirement account managers, hey, open this thing up. I've been wanting that forever. I know just me personally, I'm sitting on a pretty good amount of money in there that I would love to be picking up Bitcoin with, as well as if there were other cryptos that they offered. So I think that's going to change a lot of things also, because, first we had the ETFs. Now the big one will be the retirement accounts. And that market, I want to say, was like $40 trillion is in American retirement accounts. So that's a huge untapped market. Even if you were just getting like 1% of that, that's massive. So there's that. Second thing that I was thinking of, going back to Japan, and you were talking about talking about Bitcoin and ETFs. Now, obviously, this is pure speculation, but I think, Rob, you and I have talked about this before. I don't know if Max, if you were on the call or not. There is some speculation that the quote Satoshi is some computer scientists out of the IBM Tokyo, and I think that's true. Personally, that's my own belief. I think it's true. I think they were in on it. And so it would be, it's kind of ironic. For those who don't know, I live in Jacksonville, Florida, the home of the Bitcoin pizzas. And in Jacksonville, no one in this town has any idea that occurred here. And it's such a colossally missed opportunity. We could be celebrating it every single year. We could have Bitcoin Pizza Festival and everything. No one knows. It's completely right over their head, right? And anyway, going to Japan, it's kind of the same thing. It's like the biggest secret is, what if these were the Japanese that put out Bitcoin and you had it here the whole time and you've never really pursued it, right? It would just sort of be kind of ironic, right? Something else, investing versus leverage. So, if you've been riding this roller coaster, you're going up, you're going down, you're going some loops, you're going upside down. I'm in the amusement park, but I'm not necessarily on every single ride, right? So I think there's a big difference between leverage trading and investing in things that you believe in, et cetera. And if you follow this market long enough, they juice the lemon every so often. They juice it for everything it's worth, and then they kind of let it recover, and it cycle repeats itself. You got to realize that that's what happens in an unregulated market that's worldwide. And do you have good actors? Yes. Do you have bad actors? Yes. Do you have people saying they're a good actor and they're tied to a bad actor? Absolutely. That's going on all the time here. So you never know with crypto, but I think the safest place to be is outside of leverage. Personally, that's where I'm at. Obviously, not financial advice. Do whatever you want. However, when you're outside of it, you're not necessarily getting heart palpitations every time the market drops, right? I I look at every market drop, I think kind of like most of you guys, and I say, hey, time to start buying. Let's turn the buys on. That's what I'm thinking, right? Okay, two last points. Quantum computing. So Google had announced a breakthrough in quantum computing recently, and there's this thread of FUD that pulls up every now and again about, well, what if quantum computing can crack Bitcoin, right? Somebody just says that out into space. What if quantum computing can crack Bitcoin? Well, what does that even mean, right? I mean, think about it, right? So again, this is where I ask the follow-up questions. So I say, okay, cracking Bitcoin. What exactly are you cracking? Bitcoin, the way this thing works is basically you have a double spend problem. So if I give Rob Bitcoin, I can't give that same Bitcoin to Otaku, right? So we've got to be able to solve that problem, and that's kind of the crux of everything here. Now, you're saying to me that a quantum computer at some point in time could theoretically maybe crack that problem, that code, that cryptography, right? Okay, so how exactly would that work? So like right now, quantum computing is not in the hands of everybody. It's in the hands of almost no one. It's also theoretical, hypothetical. Yes, they're making advances, but how exactly would quantum computing then move from Google, for example, to North Korea to then hack Jesse's Coinbase account? Right? Like if you start going down the thought process here of quantum computing, I don't really think that holds much water, at least not currently. So my whole point in saying that is that I think it's a great talking point for the whales to kind of tag onto some FUD here and there, to drop the bottom out the market, to juice the lemon, and then we're back on to the next news item. So that's all I got to say about quantum. Now, my last item is just this. So if I'm 82 and Max, you're 81 and Rob's 80, then why do Rob and I look like Santa Claus and you've got a dark beard like you're in your 20s? What is going on, Max? You got to share your secrets with me.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, I guess one of them is, I never really share this with many people, but I took my first drink of alcohol when I was maybe 28, I want to say. I was very anti-alcohol all the way up to the age. My best friend, when I was a freshman in high school, was killed by a drunk driver 2 weeks into my freshman year. My grandfather, on my mom's side, horrible child abuser, I guess you could say. He would hang my mom up in a sack and beat her with a stick. And he was an alcoholic. So for me personally, I was really anti-alcohol. But anyway, I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I never smoked a cigarette my entire life. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I kind of have to, do some stuff on that. But
I know what it is. I know what it is.
What?
Jesse and I are both married, and you're not.
Boom.
Well, no. I basically was at one point. I mean, I was in a really toxic 6.5-year relationship, and it did turn some of my hair gray. But I just maybe keep up on it a little bit better. But I've had people tell me that, as far as my skin and all that, I don't know. Maybe it's a genetic thing. I mean, my mom, before she got cancer, how should I say this? So this was, I know we got to wrap this up. Anyway, before 2013, when my mom got stage 4 breast cancer, spread throughout her body, like her spine and so on. She got cancer, I think, when she was about 63, 64, give or take. And she used to get remarks all the time like, my God, you look like you're in your 40s. Like she did, like totally. And of course, you do chemotherapy and radiation. Like before she passed away, I mean, she looked like she was pushing 86 or something. It was horrible. But anyway, yeah, even with my aunts that are living, like her sisters, they all look way younger than they are. Like my aunt just turned 69, and she looks like she's 48. Anyway, for the record, I'm not anti-alcohol now. I realize that everything is in regard to moderation and being responsible and so on. But it was also me letting go when I was like 28. But yeah, I used to be pretty angry at the world. I was a lot younger, man. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's definitely situational.
Yeah.
I was also an '80s baby too. No one asked me, but I just don't want to go outside because I want to avoid the acid rain. It's a dystopian future.
Right?
See, what my problem is? Too much Diet Coke and coffee.
I rub Bitcoin on myself daily. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, it's just a combination of those things, and then I would say just some of those basic things. I look at my mom's side of the family, like everybody, like her cousins, her brothers, I can't think of like, you got to keep in mind, like she comes from a family of 10, and there was six of the daughters and then 4 of the brothers, right? I can't think of a single one of them that like, oh, this one person looks like they're way older than they are. Like they all aged really well. Like my Aunt Loida, she's in her 80s, right? She like, you ever see those commercials like on NBA.com TV where they're like, people from Okinawa live to be over 100 years old. You ever see those? Right? Like they have the highest lifespan. That's literally like my Uncle Eli and my Aunt Loida. Like they're going to live to be over 100. They're more active than probably we are. And they're going all over the world. They invested into BTC like back in, I don't know, many, many years ago or something. But anyway, they go all over the world. They go to Rome, they go to Hawaii, they just go everywhere. But they're super fit, and all they eat is fish and rice every day. Fish and rice. That's their diet. They love it. To us, it might be kind of gross, like I'm not big on eating a fish head. That's just me. But growing up, I mean, come on, like a disclaimer, I'm exactly half British American, 1/4 Spanish, 1/8 Filipino, 1/8 Chinese. You want to talk about diversification as far as like what your palate is going to have? I never got into fish head things, but I mean, I'm very open to a lot of different things. But they're getting all the omega 3s and all that. I mean, they literally have an identical diet to like the average Okinawan. And then you see on TV like, oh yeah, many Okinawans live to be over 100. So I'm like, well, then that's great, So
I'd be jumping on some of those citizenships, Max.
Yeah, I mean, I have family all over the world: UK, Germany, Spain, Philippines. My grandparents on my mom's side, my mom's grandmother was from mainland China, and my mom's grandfather was from mainland Philippines. Unfortunately, they were murdered by Imperial Japanese forces during the invasion of Japan in the early 1940s, but that's beyond the point. It was amazing how my mom and my dad met. My dad was a missionary to the Philippines in late 76. If that never happened, I wouldn't even be here. So, and that was from my dad's second marriage. Anyway, this all came from you saying something like I have great hair or something like that because I was with a toxic narcissist. The last couple of years was horrible, and that's why I'm not jumping back into the whole thing of meeting anybody. I got work to do. That'll come later. But yeah, you guys could be driven nuts all you want. No, I'm kidding. You probably have great luck, right?
You got any final thoughts though, Max?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. To wrap it up, I mean, I did have something. It is on topic, and I meant to share this real quick. I'm not gonna go super deep on this. It's back to the whole thing of Jasmine. If we just pull this up on a brief on, even Swift blockchain recognizes some of this potential. Bank of Japan Deputy Governor Ryozo, right? So stable coins could become a key part of the global payment system, even partly replacing bank deposits. Non-bank financial institutions now hold half of global financial assets, highlighting the need for stronger regulation. Again, Swift blockchain highlighting. Why is this important? Well, we didn't get a chance to touch bases on it, but we did talk about like the roadmap for what Jasmine is going to do. Personally, I still think there's huge potential opportunity for Jasmine to go like the Ripple route, if you will. Obviously not for cross-border payments, but the route in regard to stable coins for Japan with JPYD. We know that, JPYC is technically already out there and so on. They haven't done this thing yet, but I don't know if it was you, Jesse, or some other people in the Jasmine Research Consortium. We do know that their patents are still there. And I do believe Hara retweeted a little bit about that. I think the last big major update about that patent was late 2024, and then I think maybe a little bit going into this year. So what happens in regard to that? I do see them kind of going that stable coin route because it's just, as we know, it's more enablers of liquidity. And I don't
think there's still room for that with Soninium?
I do think there is. I absolutely do think it is. I mean, for the same reason, like if somebody was to say, well, Tether, there's no room for Circle. There's no room for RLUSD. There's plenty of room, because these are just liquidity enablers. So I think that we're going to hear eventually more about that. When you go to Japan, whether we do hear about that more, Rob, I would definitely write that down. I would ask Hara, hey, what's going on with JPYD? Because, my God, I mean, pairings, you're going to pair Jasmine, whether it's reward or loyalty, to help benefit the local government. Well, if you already had a stable coin, right, they could do like, kind of like their own version of what Ripple did with RLUSD, but again, for Japan or in other areas, that's just a big win moving forward, any way you want to dice it. So, that was one of my closing things. I did want to get Jesse's take on that, but I mean, I guess we're wrapping it up. But that's my main thing. It's just recognizing that there's a lot of opportunity here, whether it's the data free flow with trust thing, whether it's the whole thing, obviously, with stable coins. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just jump in there real quick. I would say with the Japan-centric stable coins, I agree with you. Going back in time with Tether, I still don't know if they've ever done a third-party audit, which is absolutely just bananas for something that's worth the amount of money that Tether's worth, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pure insanity. Now, that being said, Tether does print a lot more USDT whenever Bitcoin goes on runs. It's strongly correlated there. But when you are looking at Japan specifically in the financial laws in Japan, Japan originated stablecoins should be more secure. They absolutely should. So I would think that the government would probably incentivize those, whether it's a specific institution or maybe like a sector, right? Maybe there's a banking coin. Maybe there's a crypto coin, you're right? Maybe there's a market coin or whatever. Hard to say, or maybe they do it by geography. Certain prefectures have their own coins. They kind of hinted at that before. But I do see them doing that. And you're right that Hara has mentioned that. So I know it's on their radar. So another very valid rabbit hole to go down for you, Rob, when you're there.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Cody. Super chat.
Hey, thank you guys, all the super chats you bring to Rob in the channel. That's awesome.
Otaku, what are your final thoughts, brother? Or dare I ask?
Oh boy. My head's about to explode with all the things we're about to see next week. I'll leave it alone. So next week's the last week of the month, right? I'm pretty sure that's it. I think Friday's actually the 31st. Man,
really?
There's so much things. Yeah, really, we have yep.
Really quick before you get into next week, I just wanted to set. I looked it up today in the live stream, and there is actually a 99% chance of two rate cuts this year, and an 88% chance of 3 rate cuts. That's including this month's rate cut.
Now, is that including November?
That's including total October, November, December. Before the end of the year.
Because my
88%
understanding is that November we can't get one unless it's going to be an emergency rate cut, like we would have faced in like August when we had it shut down, or not shut down, but they don't report, right? And they're not going to have the data either. that's the other thing too. They're not going to have the data either. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get an emergency one in November unless I don't shit hits the fan or something. We have people walk out for every sitting federal job they're not getting paid for, like the the air traffic controllers. They're not getting paid. It's been a month now.
I don't think the government's going to be shut down for another whole month. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Yeah, Polymarket's got it out to like the 16th or later. I think there's like some politically charged things that like those dates really matter. Like I know that, for example, some of the government furloughed employees can't come back after a certain time period. I think that's actually even like farther. I think it's like 60 days total. So maybe they have to hit that, and then beyond, then they're just like, okay, we'll make a deal, whatever. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball like you, Rob. You should probably consult the crystal ball right now. But there's a lot. There's a lot coming in next week. We got Mt. Gox. Spence and I were talking about this last night. Mt. Gox payments are supposed to be all going to be dutied up until at the end of the month. So
and that's in stablecoin, right?
I think it's mixed. I don't think it's whatever you had, because you had to like vote for whatever back in the day you were going to receive. Yeah, so I think they're just going to.
The FTX thing is being paid back in stablecoin. That's right.
Yep, and that's still like going, ramping up. Initiative to pay back their victims. But yeah, we have a lot. We have got Coinbase. Championing the Clarity Act, handing out clarity every single day now at the White House. We don't know when we're going to get that passed. The Clarity Act, of course, rolled it into that market structure bill thing. That's coming probably the end of the year. But the big thing's coming next week. Remember, we're talking about the repayments, and then possibly the what do you call it? The dang it. BlackRock's ETF. They filed for that ETF. I don't know if we're going to get that by the end of the month, but that's also kind of out there too. The yield-based ETF, which I think is going to be pretty huge for institutional investors and the like of Wall Street. So we'll see how that plays into it.
You know what? I need to add this just real quick. Jesse, you talked about, obviously, I think with Rob, about could Jasmine potentially do an ETF. Again, back to the whole thing of the stablecoin. I think they have to go the stablecoin route first before these dominoes fall with an ETF. To me, that just makes sense because we have something to base it on. Even if you look more into Ripple, it did seem as though the RLUSD was the first domino that needed to fall in order for something like an ETF. The ETF talks. So would Japan do similar? I think all the more some because it's more strict over there, especially with compliance and so on. And then back to the whole thing with USDT, MiCA, they're not MiCA compliant technically. Even Circle isn't, but I'm more worried about Tether than I am Circle. Honestly, Tether should just reach out to like a Ripple. Hey, you guys got this done with RLUSD. You are MiCA compliant. We'd like to be MiCA compliant as well. Do they do that? We'll have to find out.
They're a direct competitor, though, right? I don't think Ripple's going to be eager to say, "Oh yeah, here's the roadmap." This is how you get it done.
But third party wise, they can. I get it, but
when Bohein's left, when Bohein's left the United States to go work with Tether, I thought that was being done. That was kind of one of the narratives. I thought.
Well, Tether's now launched is it officially launched now? Their U.S. only stablecoin there. I guess they're moving Tether out of the U.S. and they're going to be using that new. What is it? I can't remember what the.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like they're supposed to separate the old one off to the new one being only exclusively for American clients, but the other one's still going to be like kind of universal for the world. That was my takeaway anyway. It's not like they're going to stop trading pairs in the United States of USDT.
To be fair, that is true. And they also obviously had that thing. I don't know if you guys remember a while back with was it earlier this year with Uphold, right? So, and then Uphold, obviously, their rich ties to Ripple. And heck, was it there's Tether Gold. So I mean, there's a lot of different options that they have there, but again, they're not MiCA compliant. It is a problem, and moving forward, that is literally the global standard. So what are they going to do?
I'll close it with a rhetorical question. If USDT was truly solvent and backed, why would they need to create a second stable coin strictly for United States regulations? Just putting that out there.
That's where my Doge guy comes up and goes, dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I wish I had that right now. Anyway. In fact, I do have that, but that's right.
All right, guys. That concludes our broadcast day. I will be reaching out to each of you to get you on Blockchain Buzz again, ASAP. This was a good one. Guys. We went twice as long as we normally do, but I'm never in a rush for these, so I don't care if it's 5 hours, but I think Jesse's got to pee. All right, guys. Thank you, as always, for coming, man. Hopefully you guys had a good time, and I hope to see all three of you guys again. Jesse, I need a bat signal so that I can get a hold of you more often. I sent you my cell phone number so you can text me. That way I can actually get a hold of you other than text.
No, that honestly, that's a genius idea because I got the Apple Watch and this thing dings all day long. So if you text me, I will get it.
Perfect. Yeah, because I don't know if you know Max and Otaku, but Jesse and I are actually going to be launching a podcast next year. So we're trying to hammer out details about that. So yeah, it's going to be a good time, man.
Sounds like fun.
Podcast or a different one, like with Apple?
Well, those are the details we got to hammer out, right? So.
Okay. I guess too early to mention that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, guys. So again, this concludes our broadcast day. Again, guys, make sure you subscribe to all three of the gentlemen's channels. The links will be in the description. And we'll see you guys next week, next Saturday, 6 p.m. Central. Take care.
Excellent. See y'all later.
Think fast, Mac. Max
Audio.
Hadouken.
Yes, Hadouk.